Hey, welcome back to this episode of Think Business Live. Looking forward to talking with Cyriel Kortleven. Cyriel, it's great to connect with you. Love talking to people who are all over the world. You're in Belgium, and I know you do keynotes, and you typically are in Europe, but sometimes come to the US. And we're going to be talking about your book as well as your keynotes. Your book is The Change Mindset and Survival Kit for Professionals in Change. So let's dive in. Let's talk about mindset as we record this live on April 17th, 2023. I think the mindset in business is a lot different than it was 3.5, 4 years ago. So without kind of giving, too much into that question, from your perspective, from somebody who is really specializing in this, what is the mindset today versus pre-pandemic?
Yeah, one of the things that I've seen, John, is I think that businesses and people and leaders and everybody became more conscious about it. So before it was people were doing stuff and things were going on. But since the whole pandemic, it was almost like a standstill to think, hey, wait a minute, do I still want to do the job that I'm doing? Do I still appreciate the life that I'm having at this moment? So for a lot of people, a kind of a thinking process started. And for me, that's also part of the mindset, the attitude. How do you want to look at the world? So I have a feeling that it only became more important to be aware of what's the mindset that you want to be in, because I think it is a choice. Probably you grow into a certain pattern, into a certain context in your life. But I think people became more and more aware of, hey, wait a minute, maybe I want to change my life, maybe I want to go in a certain direction, and they're looking, how can I change it, how can I make some fixed patterns? So I think the importance became bigger.
Right, but let's talk about that, because there's mindset and, like you just said, the fixed patterns, right? So it's easy, I think, to say, hey, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to have a different mindset today. But then you look at something, the triggers, the fixed patterns, the routines, right? So rewind for me. Let's reconstruct how to really change your mindset, right? So if you're really open and you don't have and you're not closed and you're fixed mindset, and you're really open-minded and you're in a growth mindset, how do you rewind to really get to the soul of the change?
Yeah, one of the things, and you already mentioned it, becoming conscious of it. I think that's the biggest challenge. A lot of people are just going on with their lives, but they don't really have a clue that they have.
So be conscious of it. Don't resist it.
No, don't resist and become aware of it. Become aware of, hey, wait a minute, maybe I want to go in a certain direction, and be open. Then probably you have to.
Let's stop it. Let's stop at consciousness. So you're conscious, you're more aware, you stop resisting. Okay, so you kind of fall into that step. I love this topic. I love talking about mindset. And so you become more conscious, you raise your self-awareness. Now all of a sudden you're kind of stepping into a new frequency, a new vibration of a new lens of even where you want to go. Okay. So now let's talk about the space that you need to give yourself to kind of be in that space, right? To be in that space of consciousness, of replanning. It's so easy, I think, to just rush to the next step. That's why I kind of want to slow this down a little bit, right?
Yeah, no.
Because this, I think, is where the core happens, right? Some people call it quiet time. Some people call it, walking in nature. Some people call it meditation. But this level of consciousness is what, as a business coach and just as a human being, this is where I see the first step of change really happen. So let's take the Think community into that space.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it differs from person to person, I guess. But I think really having space is already one thing. So maybe you have to get out of your normal space, your normal context, your normal people that you have around you. And but that's the way how it worked for me. And I think you have to play around and experiment a little bit to see what works for you. Is to go to really a physical different space. And that could be the sea, that could be the forest, that could be a mountain, that could be your backyard. But a place where the stimuli that are coming to you are, you try to keep them out for a moment, because otherwise, if you're behind your laptop and the mails are pinging in, it's quite hard to get into that mindset. So I think
Yeah.
really finding a different space, and I think time is also important. Allow yourself at least the feeling of having time to dive a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
In some cases a little bit harder, but sometimes half an hour is enough. You
Yeah.
don't need 3 months on a mountain. No, that's not necessary. But
Right.
I think
Right.
it is important to step away from the normal context you're normally in,
Yeah.
and then become aware. And I think this is really your topic, to dare to dream big. What do you want to achieve? Why do you want to get in a different mindset? And probably there are some things that are, you're not happy with it anymore, or is there a certain achievement that you want to realize? What's causing it? So I think spending some time in, yeah, I like what you said, maybe the empty space. It's
Yeah.
never empty, but a little bit more space than normal, that would help, because then you
Yeah.
can really connect, here the brain with, I think, the heart, and probably also the guts to get into action.
Yeah. All right, I love it. All right, so in your thank you for that. So you said something that, whether it's 30 minutes or this, I think also, 1 minute. I mean, if 2 minutes can seem like a long time when you're starting off like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so now let's talk about mindset as a leader. As a leader, what's the responsibility to help people evolve their mindset in the workplace today, right? Because here we are in an environment now where there's hybrid, people are working from home, people are coming back to the office, people's minds are sometimes drifting, sometimes they're elsewhere, maybe they're not focused at work, maybe, and so I think there's a new mind that's coming to work. I'm a big fan. As a business coach, I talk to a lot of my clients. I work with solopreneurs to Fortune companies and everything in between. I talk a lot about, I personally think it's really important to re-onboard your people. If you're bringing them back to the office after 3 years, it's really like onboarding almost a new employee, because they're coming with new mindsets. They're
Yes.
coming with just with different life circumstances. And so what is the responsibility of a leader to lead and have mindset as part of the daily, weekly, monthly agenda?
Yeah, one of the big challenges, and I totally agree with you, that people come in with a different mindset. They've been working at home. Maybe the things that we want to achieve have changed. So I
Right.
think connection is number one. You have to spend a lot more time in connecting, with your employees, with your teams, but also between them. And one of also the big things that I'm seeing is that it differs from person to person. Where before you had your team was in the office every day, and you could go in a certain direction. I think what the whole pandemic brought is that a lot of people, if you have two small children at home, they would love to come back to the office. For them, they can do more things there than somebody else who's maybe sitting alone in a room, or somebody who enjoys having the freedom, who would like to work at night,
Yeah.
and why not? So I think you have to connect again with them on a personal level, and also focus more. That's also definitely something that has changed. Focus more on the results.
Yeah.
So, because we've seen that just doing your hours, 8 hours a day in the office, check. No, we okay, there were still some companies who were controlling every minute what was happening, but most organizations, they had to trust the employees that were doing, and so we need to have a conversation more on the results, putting a lot more time in connection between the different people, because you have different needs. I think those are two or three bigger challenges that you face as a leader.
Yeah. Let's talk about, thank you for that. Let's talk about just the responsibility of just the person, right? So I think it's important that for the leader to kind of make this, just a part of the culture, the thread, the through line of the business. But what are some exercises that people can do when they wake up, right, or throughout the day to kind of recalibrate themselves and just kind of get themselves regulated, with their mindset? What are some of the things that you teach?
Yeah, some elements that could be very interesting, and I mainly work with professionals and organizations. So I mainly focus on, if there is a big change happening in the organization, what can we do to align people, to get them open for it, to take away resistance? And I would summarize my whole book in 3 words, and that would be yes and act. What would be the yes for me? And that's a tool that I think that leaders, but everybody can use it. You can also use it in your personal situation. And I think probably you're also using it as in coaching. I'm quite sure you've heard of it. I call it, the S stands for me for suspending judgment. We human beings, we have a tendency to judge quite quickly. Somebody comes up with an idea. What happens? Yes, but we don't have any money. Yes, but we already tried it. Yes, but in the US it works different. So what I've done, in Belgium, you can't really see it really well, but I created some coasters with a red side and a green side. And on the red side, you have all kind of expressions like the yes, but no time, idea killers. Green side, idea boosters. So one of the exercises that I sometimes do is I ask people 1 minute in the yes, but, we are going to organize a party. Yes, but, and they jump on each other. So what happens? Nothing, probably. They get in a more negative atmosphere. And then I ask them to switch for 1 minute to the yes and. What would be possible if you have all the money all the time? Just dream. And just as a thinking exercise, you don't have to do all those things. And then what you notice is people go into the yes and, the volume goes up, a lot more smiling, totally different atmosphere. And we changed one word. So one of the tools that I give them is, in your next meeting, maybe you have 10 agenda points, 9 of them logical thinking. But maybe there is one agenda point where you could use some creativity. At that moment, you say, okay, we'll put the coaster in the middle of the table, 3 minutes, yes and. If during that conversation, maybe you, John, you say, yeah, but we already tried it before, red card, like in European soccer, what does it mean? You killed one idea. The punishment is you have to come up with 2 new ideas. So what I do, I make it into a little game, and I take away, the resistance. For 3 minutes, people say, okay, let's give it a try. And always when you do this exercise, after the exercise, people are amazed about all the ideas that they gathered. And you don't have to do all of them. You pick the ones that are relevant. But because you're allowed yourself to be a bit more open, a lot more opportunities can pop up.
Yeah.
So that's for me the yes. The and is maybe sometimes we have to put on a different hat. So that's for me looking at the world from a different perspective. A lot of times, if you're an expert, you look at the world from that point of view, which makes sense. That's the reason why you're hired, why you are in that position. But sometimes with the challenges that we're having at this moment, it could be very interesting if you're working in marketing. Hey, how would somebody from HR solve my problem? How would somebody from a different organization, I'm working in banking, what would they do in the pharmaceutical sector? Different culture. Hey, how would somebody from Zimbabwe solve your problem? Somebody from New Zealand, somebody from Canada. And suddenly what happens, we allow our brain to play around a little bit, but you come up with different solutions, and not that you can use all of them, but at least, you opened up your mind, you allowed your mind to look at different opportunities. So those are already 2 things that I give as a tip of a very specific tool that they can do. And the last one is the act, and that means you have to do something. You have to get into action. But we can explore that.
I love it. I love it. That's great stuff. Good. Thank you for that. I always like to give an actionable exercise if a guest can give them. They're good for people to kind of just, be able to take some of the theories and philosophies and wisdom that you're sharing and bring it into the office. All right, quick speed round for you, Cyriel. A book that's had the biggest impact on you.
Phew. I would say Brooke from Dan and Chip Heat, Made to Stick.
Oh yeah, okay, it's a good
I,
one.
I,
Yeah,
I like that one too. How can you sell an ID? I really found
yeah,
that quite interesting.
yeah. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received.
Start with the small things. Dare to think big, but start small. Every small step leads to a big part.
Yeah. I believe that, thinking big is doing the small things consistently that compound to the big.
Yes.
Last question, finish the sentence. One thing every person needs to do to tap into the courage of their mindset is.
Go for it and really do it. Try it out. Take the action. Don't overthink it. Act.
Yeah, I love it. Tell everybody who your ideal clients are and how they can connect with you.
Yeah, what I really like is people working in the domain of change. So most of the time it would be senior HR, marketing, and a lot of times they get the task from everybody has to be creative, everybody has to go in a certain direction. And I think I can give some specific tools. I try to make the topic also a little bit more light. Change can be very big, and people get into resistance if they just hear the word. And I
Yeah.
think I can bring it in an energetic way to open it up and make it a bit more pragmatic for people.
I love it. I love it. Think community. First of all, Cyriel, thanks so much for being on the show today. Think community. We talked about a lot of stuff. We've been talking about mindset a lot when the pandemic hit a little over 3 years ago. A good buddy of mine, Randy Denha, who's an estate attorney, and I did a weekly live show, which was a subset of Think Business called Think Business Live Mindset Edition. And so I always love talking about mindset. I think it's so important, and we really. It's something I think that we have to really work hard at. I mean, it's something that we need to all put into our routines, whether it's our morning routine, whether it's our afternoon routine, our wind down end of day routine, putting things in place to regulate and get back to center, recalibrate yourself, because there are certain things you can control and there are certain things that you can't. With our minds, we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And 80% of them repeat themselves, and 80% of them are negative, and 98% of them repeat themselves every day. So we really have to do our work to keep our mindset in the right space. So if Cyriel can help you, please reach out to him at, give me your website, Cyriel.
Yeah, it would be my name. It would be cyrielkortleven.com. So you can find it there. And that's probably the easiest way, or look me up on LinkedIn, and very happy to help you or put you in the right direction.
I love it. It's great. It's great. Cyriel, thank you so much. The community, if I can help you, feel free to reach out at jondwoskin.com. Cyriel, thanks. This was great.
Perfect. Bye, John. Ciao, ciao.